welcome everyone to our PhD and D.ed online information session. We have our head of school is coming along as well, hopefully fairly soon, to sort of welcome you all to the session. But we do have a fairly as I was going to say, a fairly informative program for you, which I'll just hopefully this will work. Very good. So we'll have a welcome from Professor Anne Devitt, head of school, an very tiny overview of the School of Education. And then Andrew, my colleague, Dr. Andrew Gibson, will talk through the School of Education structured Doctor of Philosophy, the Ph.D. And then myself, Andrew Loxley, I will talk through the School of Education's professional doctorate in education there. Again, they're both doctoral programs, but they do share similarities, but they are quite different in a number of respects. And again, hopefully we can talk through this with you. And again, just a quick one, if anyone has any comments, questions to make, please drop them in the chat. Myself and Andrew will pick them up as we go along there. Then we'll have some views from the students, past and present there, and again they're always good to give a different perspective on both doctoral programs that they're involved in. And then at the end, questions and answers to either myself or Andrew or the students and the graduates. We have one graduate joining us today, so again you get hopefully a nice round picture of what we get up to in the doctoral space within the School of Education. But as I said, please do sort of drop questions in and comments in as we go along, or again save them to the end there. So who's involved? There's Anne. Hopefully she'll join. Again, typical head of school. They're always involved in lots of other things as well, but she likes to come along to this. Hopefully Anne will join us and tell us about her role as well. There are other people who normally come along to these meetings. We have a director of postgraduate teaching and learning and a director of research. Both these roles, both these people are sort of closely involved in doctoral education. So if you do come join us there, you will get to meet them, and at some point there they will introduce themselves and tell you what they get up to. Then there's Miss Fiona McKibben, who's the most important person, I think, in within all of this. And she's the School of Education's research officer, and she does all the administration on both the D.ed and the Ph.D. And Fiona will sort of talk a bit about her role as well. Again, it's a very important, pivotal role within the doctoral space. And then there's me. I'll talk a bit about the professional doctorate in education, and Andrew will talk about his stuff, and then we have some students talking about what they get up to, or what we hope they get up to as well, then give you that perspective. So a bit about the school. School's been around for a long time. It's the oldest school of education on the island of Ireland, and it was established in 1905 and had the first professorial chair in education in Ireland. So I'm quite proud of this. We've got a fairly long distinguished history as a school. We also have a very long tradition in offering research degrees at both master's and doctoral level there. So we've literally probably seen thousands of students have passed through us over the decades as well. The other thing, I'm quite proud of this because I started this and I still run it. We were the first university in Ireland to introduce a professional doctorate in education in 2005. So it's now been up and running for 20 years there. So that's was quite proud of that one, and still at it as well. We have, again, we're also quite proud of this one, and again, you sort of take your view on to what extent you sort of take stock in rankings, but we've always been in the top 100 particularly since QS have included education as a subject. There we're 75th in 2025 this year, so we sort of do for a small school, we do very well and hold our own against some much larger schools of education in other institutions as well. There were 100th in the Times Higher Ed world rankings as well. That's their 2024 data. And again, that's quite a significant achievement given the fact that we are quite a small school, said in comparison to others. So we do very well there, which I think is a testament to both the, the quality of the teaching that we engage in, also the sort of where our students go afterwards as well, the kind of work that they do. But again, it's also linked to what we have is very active research culture within the school.
Hmm?
We have two university research centres, which myself and Andrew are members of, and that research centre is focused on higher education policy and practice. And we have the other research session centre, which looks at ICT and education there, and they've both been running for a good number of years now. And we also have 6 research groups as well there. And we encourage doctoral students to join a centre or a group, depending upon what it is that you're coming to do your research in. And we're always very, very, very keen to ensure that students do become part of groups, because again, we're quite a small school. We're quite diverse in terms of what we get up to, which I think is fairly typical of schools of education. It ranges from psychology through to inclusion, through to philosophy, through to history, through to me. I'm a sort of sociologist. So again, so we're always very busy and very diverse in terms of our research activities. But the centres and the groups are very good because they give our quite what might seem as quite sort of individualistic or in our individual disciplines and perspectives. It lends us coherence to it. So when you sort of, and hopefully you've already done this, when you go and sort of look at the School of Education website, you'll see that there's quite a coherent collection of groups there which draw us all in and make the most of our talents and skills, and hopefully are also our doctoral students as well there. Another part of the school is that we regularly have research conferences, seminars, podcasts there, because there's always very active space. And again, as we'll talk about a bit later, we're very, very encouraging of students to become part of that, to either just come along and be participants in conferences, or be even more active participants in conferences and seminars, and present papers, present work, and so on and so forth there. So we try and engage our students in all sorts of different ways within the school, not just registered students or postgraduate research. We try and encourage you to become part of the wallpaper, part of the furniture as well there. And Nina is one person there who'll probably talk a bit about her role as well there, again as a full-time student, but also part of mine and Andrew's research centre as well. We have, again, there's 30 academic staff. We've grown over the years. So we at one point we shrunk down to about 20, and now we've expanded back up to 30, which is very good. There's 11 administrators, which Fiona is one of the key ones there. And we have 12 research staff as well there, which is quite a significant number of research to have within quite a small school. But in saying that, we have 500 students, so we're not that small. And we have 80 doctoral students. So you can see that we are very busy in the doctoral space. We have approximately 200 Master of Education students, and again, another big program. We have 160 professional Masters in Education students. This is the program where people come along and do 2 years trained to be a teacher. And then we have 40 undergraduates, very small number of undergraduates, and these are BMusEds. And again, these are undergraduates who are training to be specifically to be music educators there. We've seen some 35 D.ed students to completion. There's an 85% completion rate there. We only ever take in small numbers of students on the D.ed over the years. So that's the reason why the 35 might seem not many for a 20-year program, but we've only ever worked with very, very small numbers of students, but are very proud of our completion rates there. And on average, we graduate some 10 to 15 Ph.D every year there. So we have a fair number of students who come in and successfully complete as well. And we also, very, very importantly, a cohort of experienced doctoral supervisors all of whom are very, very research active. So if you do come and join us there, you will be allocated or partnered with people who are very experienced at supervising, but also very experienced at doing research as well there, which we consider to be incredibly important in terms of when we work with doctoral students. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Andrew, who'll talk you through the PhD.
That's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. You're all very welcome. Thank you very much for making the time and coming along. You will have seen much of the information we might be presenting today, so we can kind of go through it at a reasonable speed, because lots of this information is out there. It's available on the website. It's available on the handbook. So your options for the structured PhD are 4 years full time. So 4 years would be the expected period. That's what the nature of what a PhD in Ireland today is. If it's a structured PhD, 4 years full time, 6 years part time, but that can vary. And the purpose of the PhD is that you will be producing a substantial piece of original high quality research. So the nature of a PhD is that you are making an original contribution to knowledge, to scholarship of the area that you're working in. And that generally would take the form of a 100,000 word thesis. By the time, looking at it from this perspective, 100,000 words seems like an awful lot. By the time you get to year 3, halfway through year 4, you will be in the position of having to cut back a lot. So the research that you do will bring you up to that limit quite quickly. One of the things about this as a PhD is that it is a structured PhD, and that's the direction that most PhDs, if not all PhDs in Ireland, are going. And what that means is that as part of your research, doing the PhD, you would undertake 2 taught modules. So that's part of the structure of doing a PhD, is that you do 2 taught modules. Now, they are structured and we have them set as in PhD research methods is what the focus is for that, and also research in a contemporary, online, ethical, and academically integrous setting. So those are the kind of modules that you would be doing, and they're to guide the research that you would be doing. But another part of how your research is guided is through the support of the supervisor or supervisors more generally, who are part of your research from the very beginning. So if you have been in contact probably with Fiona, if you were emailing the school to ask about this, or if you're in touch with myself, we were encouraging you to have a look at the school website and see who is researching in what areas, to try find someone who is interested in your area, who's in a position to be able to supervise your prospective project that you want to work in. So those are 2 of the elements of how the PhD is actually structured. On the one hand, there is that aspect of coursework through the taught modules. And then the other side of it is regular meetings and regular engagement with your supervisor or supervisors, who will be with you every step of the way as you're progressing through the PhD. And if we want to move forward one, Andrew, if possible.
I will do that.
So yeah, the requirements, again, this will be familiar to you from the website. A high kind of 2-1 honors degree is what we're looking for. As part of your application, you are to develop a research proposal. And that would be the thing that is submitted as part of your application. You're putting together a proposal for the kind of research you're intending to do. Now, this, as the word that's in the italics there, is to say that you're demonstrating the potential to work at doctoral level. The expectation is not that your research proposal is absolutely perfect, bulletproof, flawless in all ways. What we want is that there's evidence that you've thought about the kind of work that you want to do, that you've looked at the kind of research that is out there on the area that you're interested in. We would have encouraged you to be getting into contact with a prospective supervisor who might be interested in and in a position to supervise you, to have a conversation with them about your research proposal. You'll also see on the school's website that we do have guidance about the kind of things we're looking for in a research proposal. So do take a look at that. There's lots of guidelines about the kinds of things that we would be looking at and that we will be taking into consideration when we're looking at it. Another part of the actual entry requirements then is you having that conversation with your potential supervisor. They will be the ones who will be able to give you the steer in terms of how your research might fit in with what's going on in a wider area of research. This is a big part of what doing a PhD is. When we're talking about the nature of a PhD being to make a original and substantial contribution to research, to scholarship, you're essentially inserting yourself into an ongoing conversation. So if you're interested in, let's say, something that is an area of my interest, higher education research policy, sorry, the research of higher education policy, my expectation would be if someone is developing a proposal, they would be looking at, well, what else has been done on higher education policy? What else has been done on higher education policy in Ireland? What are the kinds of ongoing conversations that are happening in relation to that area? And then what is the contribution that you see yourself as being in a position to make? When you put that all together, so we have the information about what your qualifications are, what your academic background is, and then what is your proposal for your research, that then is put forward by all of the relevant deadlines. It's put together by Fiona, and it is shared with the school's postgraduate applications committee. So it's not one person is making a call on whether or not you should be doing a PhD. It is evaluated by a panel of people within the school, and those are the people who Andrew mentioned earlier on. Those are our colleagues who are themselves active in research and who are interested in what are the kinds of people who are interested in joining the PhD program and making a contribution. We move on to the next one, please, Andrew, if I think I have one or two more. So as set out, the structure, as I mentioned before, the mandatory modules, they come in the first year. You've an opportunity to take some extra modules if you want, which are not mandatory. That's fine. So in the first year, that's when you're doing your structured coursework. You're also working on developing the kind of things that you said you were going to do in your PhD from the proposal. In the second year, then you're moving into probably you'll start doing field work, but you will also have to do a thing that we call the confirmation process. So that's when you have a conversation with the thesis committee, who are parallel to your supervisors, who are interested as external observers, but interested participants in your research process. And they're looking at your work and seeing, where are you at? Are you hitting the necessary timelines? So that's another part of the structured nature of the PhD. And then the expectation is by the end, for the years 3 and 4, you will have generated your data. So then you're kind of writing up the data, you're writing up your analysis. And then the happy ending for all of this is you do a viva voce. You do an examination in person. That all goes swimmingly and fantastically. You get some constructive feedback on the kinds of changes that could be made to your work. And then you get to have a nice day out for the family and the dogs, which is your graduation. And that's the happy ending. Andrew.
Thank you. Right, over to the D.ed. So different colours there in the middle there. They have the Aston Villa or West Ham colours there, as opposed to the dull sort of yellow and red of the PhD there. But I have to say that, not being biased in any shape or form. So the D.ed is slightly different in some respects and also very different in many respects to the PhD. It's part-time. There is no full-time route on it. It's usually done over a 4-year period, though some people can go up to six years with it. The average completion time is usually about 4 to 5 years for most people, and it leads to a similar qualification, a level 10 qualification, doctoral qualification, as the PhD there. It's cohort based as well. So when you come into the program with us, you'll be pretty much with the same group of people throughout there. And again, that's sort of a difference between the D.ed and the PhD there. So you move together as a bunch, which I think has always been a really, really nice feature of the program, with the same group of students and fellow researchers throughout the sort of 3, 4, 5-year period there. There's more structure to it than the PhD. So we have 5 modules spread out over 3 years. And it's also a slightly shorter thesis as well there. The reason why the thesis is shorter is because students do quite a substantial piece of written pieces of work during the program, but it all adds up to about 100,000 words there. They're just the words are just distributed slightly differently there. And in fact, it's probably as I think Una, one of our graduates, will say that it's probably difficult to do the shorter thesis that sort of has the same level of expectation as, so we say, a PhD as well there. So yeah, it's quite a challenging one to do there. Um, the other thing that really differentiates the PhD from the D.ed or the D.ed from the PhD is this bit where it's about focus on developing deeper critical understanding of your own professional practice. It really is about you and what you do in whatever particular sector of education you work in. So it's a great opportunity to be really narcissistic and egocentric and me-centered. There you can really dig into what you do, your own practice in any particular shape or form there. Um, the other thing that's connected to it, similar to the PhD, it's about doing a very significant piece of research over a sustained period of time as well. Similar to the PhD, you have a supervisor right at the start and they'll be with you right through to the end there. There's no distinction there. Other programs you might find as professional doctorates, you might not start your research perhaps into the third year and be allocated a supervisor maybe in the second or third year. For us, we took the view when we designed the program that you will have a supervisor who will go with you right from the start, right to the finish. And again, that works well over the years as well. The other thing is we designed it in terms of the structure of it so it actually fits what practitioners need in terms of the way in which we've organized the teaching, because again there are 5 modules there and it is quite demanding for people, particularly if you're working full time and have other commitments as well there. So we've always tried to sort of be as flexible around the structure of the program in terms of when we organize sessions and so on and so forth there to try and make life as easy as possible for practitioners there. Okay, the next bit to this is that again that it was designed in a way to really focus on transforming and deepening people's professional knowledge there. So it's always about being as reflexive and reflective as possible. And that has always been quite a key part to the program. Practitioners come to us, join the program. They've been doing their work to a very high standard for a number of years. And this gives them a chance to really step back from that and question and critique in the nicest possible what they do and how they do it, and do it in a space with a bunch of other uh, like-minded students as well there. And it's always been quite a varied cohort of students. We have people who are primary teachers, post-primary teachers, those who work in academia, senior administrators in academia, people who don't even work in academia at all, might work in other sectors um, such as special education schools, and also sort of youth reach as well. So there's all sorts of different kinds of practitioners join the program, so, which I think really adds to an interesting eclectic mix and also interesting conversations as well between students. And the other thing we try and do, and Andrew's been part of this for a number of years, and other colleagues, is we always try to make the modules and the teaching uh, on the program as innovative and as interesting and as creative as possible. And that's always evolving, that's always changing as well there. So we always try to be incredibly sort of innovative in terms of how we engage with you and how you, the students, engage with us as well. And again, that's always worked well over the years. So in sort of broader terms there, that there's these 3 elements to it. There's the modules, 5 modules, 3 of which are connected to research methodology. And again, that sort of highlights the significance that we place on the quality of the research that we like you to do and expect you to do. Then there's the supervision side of it as well, the person or people who could join you along the journey, as the saying goes. And there's your research itself as well, and they all combine together to come together as the D.ed thesis there. The other thing is, again, it is quite structured there, and it's deliberately structured because it works with a particular group of students who are also, as I said, mostly working full-time, and this program is also part-time as well. So each year there are a number of sort of milestones that we expect you to hit, and there's also additional, hopefully you'll hit these as well there. And so there's module aspects to it, there's thesis aspects to it, there's milestones, there's things like, we'd like you to get to this stage, please. And there's also additional stuff as well there. We sort of think, yeah, this is really where you should be getting at as well there. Similar to the PhD, at the sort of that middle stage, one of the milestones is that students do this thing called the confirmation, which is really it's a semi-formal examination at the middle of the program, just to make sure that you are working at a doctoral level there. And again, at the end of that, year 4 or year 5, there's a viva at the end there, similar, an oral examination based on the thesis, based on the research work that you've undertaken there. So again, lots of parallels there with the PhD. Okay, so entry requirements into it. We usually expect people to have a master's or equivalent qualification there. And if people aren't sure what they mean by equivalent, then drop me an email and I can sort of go through that with you. Again, master's is normal. But we do also look at other forms of qualifications as well there. We always say that as a program, it works better if you do have 3 years experience in an educational related context. Again, the program was designed in a way that people would draw on, reflect on very reflexively their own work, their own practice, to tie into what it is that we cover in the modules, but also what people do in their research as well there. Similar to the PhD, we expect people to submit a proposal. And again, the details of that, the structure of that is also on the School of Education website there. Again, it's useful in the sense that we get a sense of what you're up to, what you might want to get up to as a researcher, but also it helps with the process of allocating you to an appropriate supervisor. Again, one of the things we've always tried to do is ensure that that the supervisor is someone in your area as well there, so you're connected up with someone who's also not only just an expert supervisor, but also is knowledgeable and understanding of the area in which the work that you're going to be doing your research in as well. There again, we interview people as well. That's quite important part of this particular process. Again, you're coming to work, you're going to doing this for 4 years, 5 years. So to feel as though, yeah, this is a person I can work with. This supervisor is the person who, I think I can get on with, and vice versa as well there. And again, it's all about potential to work at doctoral level there. Then again, similar to the PhD, we have a D.ed applications committee where the proposals are reviewed and looked at, and final decisions are made in terms of offering places to students there. Okay, right. So time to meet some of our students. So are some of our students out there?
Yeah,
Do want
I'd
to?
actually, instead of Talo, Nina is actually going to represent
Okay,
the
great
good
stuff.
for us.
Is Una there?
Uh,
Is Fikra there? Is
Yes,
Orna
Andrew,
there?
I'm here, ready and
Very
ready.
good, very good, excellent. Right, so who wants to? Does Nina? Do you want to
can
go
I
first?
can I hand over to Nina first? Yeah, because I think Nina has another appointment. She very
Okay,
kindly agreed to come
so
along and speak to us. So, yeah, Nina, what didn't we tell you when you started the program that you wish you knew?
Ooh. I don't know. It feels like so long ago. But hi everyone. I think there's just like a few things that I wanted to highlight that were coming to me as Dr. Loxley and Dr. Gibson were chatting. I think what was said about the proposal, that it doesn't have to be concrete, that it's points towards a potential project is really important, because I think a lot of people come into this thinking that it has to be the final product and that's what they're going to be set on for the duration of their PhD. or D.ed. And it doesn't have to be, it will change. Your PhD project will change as time goes on. Mine definitely has. In regards to the supervisor, I would say before there's any agreement on who's going to supervise, definitely have a chat with them, either in person or via Zoom, as opposed to just via email. Also read their journal articles. These are usually listed on their profiles on the Trinity website. So definitely recommend that to see who's on the same wavelength as you in terms of your research area, but also how you would like to approach a specific project. So just a little background about myself. I'm South African. I moved to Ireland to do my master's. And thankfully I had funding for that. For my PhD, I did not. So something that I definitely recommend, and it's not something that I did necessarily, is try and figure out a funding plan before you begin your doctoral studies. It can be added stress that you don't need on top of everything. As Andrew mentioned, there's checkpoints along the way, such as your confirmation, and those are quite time intensive and labor intensive, and also take up a lot of your mental space. There was talks about conferences and papers and collaborating within researchers in Trinity and also internationally and with other universities in Ireland. The School of Education is really good in a number of respects in regards to encouraging collaboration and providing opportunities for attendance at conferences or contributing to journal articles or projects, also teaching and other research opportunities. I would say, just as a piece of advice, you will eventually learn how to balance these, I won't say recommendations or suggestions, but these offers and opportunities to make sure that you have a balance in your PhD experience, because there does need to be a balance. Belonging. So the School of Education also does a really good job at connecting us as PhD and D.ed students with the wider Trinity community, as well as with other PhD and D.ed students. So there's things such as the PhD coffee mornings, or the doctoral students coffee mornings. There's year-end events. There's also seminars and conferences and other opportunities that Fiona will send out to all of us. So I think that there is sometimes a misconception, or maybe other doctoral students have had this experience from other universities, of it being quite a lonely process. And the School of Education, which is really quite nice, is they try to mitigate against that feeling. So that's really good. And speaking of conferences, I am going to plug the School of Education postgraduate conference. Only because I think it'll be, if you're thinking about applying and submitting submitting an application or proposal, I think this will be a really good way for you to connect with other students. It's not just for Trinity, it's open up to other doctoral students, but it'll be a really good way for you to meet people. What I'll do is in the chat, I'll put in oh, yay. Okay, thanks, Andrew. Andrew's just popped in the information about the School of Ed postgraduate conference. I also have to leave, but I'll pop my email address into the chat as well. Anybody who's interested in applying or wants advice, maybe an international student and you kind of want to understand the lay of the land, or you want to hear me complain about the funding journey I've been on, which has been quite stressful, feel free. And good luck to anyone who's applying. It's a really enjoyable process. It is, like I said, there are moments that are quite stressful, but it's really cool to be part of this research community. So thank you, Andrew, for this opportunity to chat to them.
Thank you, Nina.
Thanks,
That's
Nina.
very good of you, very kind of you. So moving on to the D.ed, unless Andrew, you want to add anything to that? Brilliant, right? So moving on there. So Una, any words of wisdom for anyone?
Well,
having survived to,
I've survived. I'm here in person. Well, not quite in person, but I'm here. I suppose I'm going to give you some of the personal insights that you may not have got from both Andrews. I suppose we're all used to the acronym SMART, where outcomes are specific, measurable, achievable. I can't remember what the OR is, but anyway, time-bound, realistic and time-bound. But yes, the D.ed is all of those. It is achievable, and I've managed to achieve it. But what about the inside story, and what does SMART mean for me? Well, I suppose when I was thinking about this, for me, the S stood for sacrifice. It is a sacrifice of your time, of your money, and your life. And in one way, it is a selfish type of journey, because it is your journey. But I actually found that very, very handy and very
不用
good,
驾驶吗？飞机
because with
半自
4
动嘛。
children, I didn't really want to. It was my time. It was my time. So it was brilliant to be able to say, sorry, mom is working away on her thesis. I am still sane at the end of it, which is great. And there are times when I did want to scream. But one of the things that others have mentioned, and Nina, you mentioned this, the social aspect of the D.ed program. You are going with a group, you're starting off with a group, and the supportive element of that group is amazing, both of the academic staff, the administrative staff, but also the group that you're with, because as a group, we've gone through many life milestones. From when I started in 2019, we hit COVID. I finished, graduated in 2024. So during that time, we've gone through marriages, births, deaths, house moves, job moves, the whole lot as a group. And we've been there to support each other as well. So if you move on to the M, can you manage it? Yes, you can manage it. But you do need to be very careful in how you actually give your time. So for me, I dedicated a certain time. Every Saturday was going to be my time in the library. And I think once you have a timetable in place, and even if you just do 2 hours or put it down for 1 hour, you'll find yourself there for longer, actually. But that was important. Will there be times when you lack motivation? Yes. Will there be times when things will just go totally wrong? Yes. But you do go through sort of that roller coaster, which is my or, but I'll come back to A now. Was I apprehensive? Yes. And being apprehensive of being in Trinity with colleagues who are so much more knowledgeable, but you actually realize that there's no question that isn't stupid, and everybody, works with you on your level, and gradually you kind of build up your own confidence. Affordability is an issue, and that was mentioned earlier on. So I would have a plan in action, or a plan of how to afford it, because there's nothing worse than doing something that you want to do and not knowing how to pay for it. So that is stress that if you can sort out at the beginning, it's nice to just take that one off your shoulders. Andrew mentioned the different modules that you do. So A also stands for artistic and creativity. Definitely over the course of the 4 years, it really extends your creativity. It challenges you to think creatively about what you're doing. And that was really and a very enjoyable part of the modules for me. And also we worked in a group, and you'd be surprised what you come up with as a group in some of those modules. Or I've already said stands for roller coaster. Yes, it is. Do you ramble? Do you rave? Yes, at times. You have to be reflective. You have to think back. And I mean, the end point is the thesis, but also you're getting to reflect on your own self, on your own professionalism, your own ability to work with others. So you learn an awful lot of other skills at the same time. So T, finally, was it traumatic? Was it tough? Yes. But am I very, very thankful that I did it? Yes. And I still kind of smile when I see the final printed thesis, T for thesis, on the shelf. You are reluctant to look at it for quite a while, I will say that. But so basically, to summarize, was it smart for me to do it? Absolutely yes. So I'm open to any questions that you want to throw at me as well.
Thank you, Una. Anyone want to question Una while she's still there? Oh, you've been let off there. Fiacre, how
Hello,
does your
everybody.
process? Are you paralleling Una there with
Yeah, I'm
your journey?
very envious of Una there, that she's come out the other side. I'm in year 4 at the moment, so I'm a year 4 student on the D.ed. My day job, I'm also a lecturer in TU Dublin in the School of Surveying and Construction Economics. So the D.ed itself, Una was pretty comprehensive there in her run through. For me, the structure of the program was very important. I suppose my own background, I'm a quantity surveyor by profession. I would have worked as for 15 years in the construction industry as a quantity surveyor before I entered the academic arena. So I'm now lecturing about 16 years, so I'm getting old. But my expertise would have been in quantity surveying, not in education. And the doctorate in education gave me a great opportunity to, I suppose, get exposure to the philosophies in education, learning theories, and so on. And a big thing for me is on the D.ed, it's based on your own practice, your own professional practice. So what you're doing right the way through is very relevant to your day job, basically. So I found that very important. I thought that was a very important aspect. Also, Una mentioned there as well the comradeship and the different people on doing the D.ed from different backgrounds. That was important to me as well because you get different perspectives and it opens your mind and it opens your views on different learning theories, which I can bring back to my own lecturing. The structure itself, the taught modules are very good, especially in the first 2 years. We spend quite a bit of time looking at methodologies, research methods, things like that, which for me I wouldn't have been very strong on, and I found those modules very helpful. And also, Andrew mentioned earlier there that your supervisor is with you from the start. So again, that gives you confidence, that you have the supervisor to talk to from the day you start on the course. So again, that's a major positive. I suppose things to watch out for, because it's a part-time doctorate, you're working, time management can be difficult. There's no two ways about it. There's a lot of work involved in this, and it's very important that you set aside time every week to cover your studies. And maybe it's an area that I often lack in, and maybe you get caught up at work, and given everything, it's the correct amount of time can be a problem right the way through. But again, it's very rewarding, and the confirmation in year 2, that puts the pressure on to get yourself up to a certain level to make sure you have a certain body of work completed, and it sets a nice foundation going forward. So it's very well structured. The modules are very helpful. The fact that you have your supervisor all the way through is very helpful. Again, I'm in year 4. It'll take me probably 5 years. I'm not going to get it completed in the 4 years. I kind of knew that early on, so it's going to take me 5 years to get to the end. But yes, very happy with the structure of the course. Very happy so far. Again, if there's any questions or anything anybody wants to ask me, feel free to ask.
Nope, they've let you off as well. That's very good. Orna, how's your journey progressing so far?
Thanks, Andrew, and hello everyone. Delighted to be here. I suppose similar maybe to Fiacre, just to give you a little bit of background, I'm an architect by profession, so I would have had my own practice for about 16 years, but also full-time academic lecturer in TU Dublin School of Architecture there, and also experience in academic management. So coming at the doctorate from, I suppose, the perspective of being more at the later stage of my career and really wanting an opportunity to reflect back on the kind of experience that I had, and particularly in architecture, it's a professional program, a professionally accredited program, very much practice-based. So it was very appealing to have an opportunity maybe to look a little bit more deeply into what was actually going on in the studio and in the classroom, and to just reflect on that, and maybe to have an opportunity to develop a kind of more critical position. And the D.ed has definitely given me that opportunity, and has really changed, I suppose, the way I think about my own practice and my contribution, not just to my own colleagues at school and faculty, but also the kind of wider discussion around the discipline of architecture and architectural education. And as Fiacre has mentioned as well, I had no sort of formal educational qualification as such, very much professional qualification. So I have to say I was very nervous going into a doctorate in education without that kind of background. But again, like Fiacre, I think the program, and Andrew has mentioned this, is very much designed to support that. And what became very evident very early on is that I could relate it directly to my own practice from the very beginning. And that was really kind of both encouraging, but also very rewarding, because it meant that we were really, you could use the structure and the content of the program, the curriculum of the D.ed, but it really related to my own practice and within the class group, which is also a really positive aspect. I'd echo what Fiacre and Una are saying about just the support and the kind of camaraderie you get with your class group. But you're working in a very diverse class group, so you're also getting lots of different inputs and then reflecting that back also on your own practice. From a very kind of core point of view, I wouldn't have been an experienced researcher, very much focused on practice, professional practice. So it was the structure of the program and the kind of modules that you cover really helped to develop proper research approach, if you like. So research skills and developing, just becoming familiar with the kind of research methods and research methodology and how to develop a research strategy to support my own work. Those, again, were quite challenging, I have to say, in the initial stages, but the structure of the program is such that it's very much an incremental journey, and you move through the modules, you kind of do develop that kind of confidence and it begins to make more sense, I guess, and then really does support you in developing your own thesis. And as Fiacre and Una have also mentioned, I suppose the other nervousness I had about it, I work full time, have a lot of family commitments, and just was I actually going to be able to make the time for it. But I suppose, like anything, if you're really enjoying something, you do make the time for it. And what I found is has been incredibly difficult, and you have real bottlenecks when you're trying to manage a whole lot of things together. But it's been such an enjoyable process and such a rewarding process that it's actually been something I've looked forward to make the time. So it is very much doable. It just does need, as Fiacre and Una have already said, a bit of focus, time management, and maybe putting time aside at various critical stages so that you kind of keep your momentum going. And just also the school, the members of staff, the Andrew is my supervisor, and Fiona, the whole school has been incredibly supportive. So you're not on your own. You have that resource to support you, and that's been really, really very good. And we've called on that up many times over the years. So like Fiacre, I'm in my fourth year. Probably again will need an additional year just because of work pressures and the kind of time involved in it. But very happy to do that, and looking forward to the remaining part of the program. So I don't know if that covers it, or like the others, if there's any questions, I'm happy to share my email as well if anyone has anything they'd like to follow up on. So.
Great stuff. Thank you, Orna. Thank you, Fiacre. Thank you, Una, and also thank you, Nina, who's had to go. I'm just going to pick up on a couple of points there, and I think it's one of the questions that I always ask when people apply to the program, and I sit down and talk to them about their intentions and their motivations, is can you fit it in? And I think that came from Una, Fiacre, and Orna there, particularly the D.ed students there. It is part-time, and most people, 99% of people, do work full-time as well. Though I think if you are thinking of applying do think quite carefully about how you might want to weave this in, because it can be very, very time consuming. Orna, how many hours a week do you think you spend or have spent on the program?
Yeah, there's probably, it does change as you go through. There are different pressure points, but I would say on average, probably, 6 to 7 hours a week in terms of kind of when you're active in it. Now, I have to say, totally honest, with a full-time job, I can't do that every week. So what I try to do is maybe just to have a regular time that kind of works. And then when I need to reorganize my schedule to give more time to the doctorate, I do that. So it is time consuming, but I think the fact that it's structured, that was a big thing for me, that there was that structure, there are those milestones, you know what you're working towards. And so that helped a lot in terms of kind of managing the time and managing the workload.
Birkra, similar for you?
Yeah, I would concur with Orna there. Basically, you'd really want to set aside a day a week, day per week, if that's 8 hours, on average. Now, I suppose in the academic world, for people like myself and Orna, the summertime you might have more time when you're not lecturing, and then there's other times in the year when you're very, very busy and you can't really give it the time it needs. But on average, you'd want to really look at a day per week, minimum, and maybe a bit more than that as the years go on. Because even gathering, I have a huge amount of transcripts to go through from focus groups and interviews and so on. That's very time consuming, and even the organization surrounding your field work, it takes a lot of time. So yeah, minimum a day per week, if not more.
Una, just to finish with you, did you similar kind of time commitment?
It's a bit of a blur. Yeah, it was. Yeah, there are times that there are peaks and troughs. There are times when you literally need to give it more than the day a week or whatever. Especially when you're doing some of the assignments, especially the group assignments where you're trying to maybe work with others who have their own schedules as well. Towards the confirmation in year 2, you really sort of will take any hours you can. And then for the final write-up, I think for me, I'd say I don't remember the summer, so it took quite a while. But when you're working in education, you have that summer to play around a little bit more of. But as I said, it is a sacrifice, so you kind of have to say, am I willing to make that sacrifice, not to do this, not to do that? So yeah.
Good.
It's hard to say, to be honest.
So yeah, and I presume, Andrew, from the perspective as a PhD, that part-time PhDs follow a similar kind of sort of weaving in and out as well, quite different from the full-timers.
Yeah, much the same. I wouldn't notice any huge differences, would you?
No, not at all. There, full-time PhDs, to a certain extent, from a can be quite treat it. If you're doing it well, you treat it like a full-time job there. So it's a very different kind of sort of orientation to the work. And again, our PhD students equally have family commitments and other commitments as well. But because this is that's really their sole job focus there, so that's quite a different orientation to it. But one of the things I'm going to say really about both PhDs and D.eds before we move on is there is this project management piece to it, which I think Birkra and Orna and Una and Nina alluded to as well there. So it's not just about spending lots of lovely time reading and contemplating what you're reading. There is also, for most people, field work to be done, empirical work to be done, data to be generated, and that has to be organized as well. And again, the sort of thing as Orna and Birkra and Una will say, that can be quite time consuming, and if you haven't done it before, it can be quite a sort of an eye-opener as well, just how long it takes to get anything done as well there. So again, that's part of the process of becoming a researcher as well. And both programs are about ensuring that you come out of this as competent, confident, independent researchers there who have produced, and again, similar to the PhD, the D.ed is about making a contribution to the conversation in some form or another. And that's a really important part of it, and a really important part of why people do it as well. Right. I'm just going to, so thank you, Orna and Una and Fikra. If you want to hang around, please do. But if you do need to go, then thank you for your contribution. As ever, always very valuable and always very insightful. Right. Okay. The other, okay, I've said this, I don't need to sort of go over this again there, but supervisors are absolutely critical for this. And again, they start with you at the beginning and they go through with you to the end as well there. Some of you might have 2 supervisors, some of you might have 1 supervisor. It entirely depends on what it is you're planning to study. Sometimes it's useful to have 2. So example, I co-supervise with Andrew at the moment, and he brings a different perspective to the work as well there, and I bring a particular perspective to the work. And again, it's really interesting in that sort of, we have this triadic relationship with our students, and again, we always learn from each other as well. And I think that's the other thing about supervisors in the school there. We don't necessarily, even though we have expert knowledge, we're not sort of sorry, did
Yeah, no, there's just accidental. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. And I think that's important. We learn from each other as supervisors, from our students, as much as we, hopefully the students learn from us as well there. So for example, I'm supervising both Orna and Fikra there. I'm not a quantity surveyor, I'm not an architect, but I do have, a relatively good knowledge of pedagogical processes in higher education and policy and practice in higher education there. So I've learned an awful lot from them about architectural education and quantity surveying education, and hopefully they learned a bit about me about pedagogy in higher education as well there, which is about what their doctoral work is about. So again, as I said, we give you, hopefully we allocate you a supervisor right at the start. In fact, we usually take the view, if we, irrespective of how good your proposal is, how good you are, sometimes we have to turn people away because we can't find a supervisor for them. And it's really sad when we have to do that. But we always take a view, it's very important that there is a matching there, that we just don't take people on willy-nilly, that we do make sure that there is an appropriate supervisor in place for you. And also in the sense that you're comfortable working with this person as well there. So moving on, yeah, and again, all of our supervisors are gone through the doctoral process as well. Even though I went through it thousands of millions of years ago, I still feel very rawly in a number of respects as well there. So again, you work with people who've also gone through it as well. So there's always a huge amount of empathy and also lots and lots of sympathy as well from us. The other thing that's really important about the supervision space is that you do need to engage with your supervisors on a regular basis. And if you do join us, we work through that at the early stages of you being a student. But it's absolutely critical that you do that. Sometimes that can be quite tricky, particularly if you're part-time as well, you have other commitments. But again, it's really important to think that when you do join us, particularly the part-timers, you're going to have to sort of make time also to meet with your supervisor as well. Absolutely critical. I meet with my part-timers at least once a month. Sometimes the sessions can be quite intense, others are more just like check-in sessions, but you sort of develop that relationship, you develop that sense of what is needed in any particular supervision session at any particular point in time during the study, during the registration period. But you are expected to meet fairly regularly as well there. Okay, just to ensure that the process just unfolds properly as well there. Okay, right, Fiona, are you still with us, Fiona? Are you
Yes,
muted?
I am still with
Thank
you,
you.
Andrew, and I was just answering a couple of emails there.
Oh,
Hello,
thank you.
and
Very good. The most important person within the PhD and D.ed is Fiona, who keeps me and Andrew on our straight and narrow, and also most of the students as well. Fiona's been doing this a good old long time, and I think what's really important is that Fiona knows the systems and the structures within Trinity, which can be very strange and very odd, even for those of us who've been here a long time, and for those of us like Andrew who haven't been as long as me, still find them quite odd and strange. As well, but Fiona knows them inside out. She's very good. If she doesn't know, she knows who to go and talk to find out what's going on. So Fiona, would you like to introduce yourself?
I think I've tic-tacked with a goodly number of the attendees here. Looking at the names, I think we've tic-tacked and had a bit of an email forward and back and forth emails we sent to each other. So I'm the person behind PhD research, the PhD research at tcd.ie email. So it's me, and I do look after the admin side of things. So what do? I help with the admin of in terms of recruitment and applications. I assist with timetabling. I help with allocation of desks for our full-time doctoral student. And basically, if you have a query and you can't get in touch with whoever, you can drop me an email. And if I don't know the answer to it, I'll know who to go to get that information. I look after the current students, for example, if they've got any questions around progress reform, submission of progress forms, dates of confirmations, organising vivas. So what do? I sort out the venue for those, I sort out the chair, I tic-tac with supervisors and examiners and all of that. I also support in the organisation of the annual D.ed Court of Examiners. I support the Doctoral Board Committee. I sit on the School Executive Committee. You heard Andrew's talking about the Postgraduate Assessment Committee. I support that. For Postgraduate Research Applications Committee. I also sit on and support the doctoral, so the taught doctorate applications assessment committee as well. And I'm quite involved with the PGR, the Students' PGR Conference Committee. That's our annual conference, typically taking place in May each year in the Long Room Hub. Love to be involved in that, and it's always great fun and a great event to attend to. I support, I guess, I think we in the School of Education, we think get together, socialization, getting the groups together is very, very important. So I help organize the annual and sometimes biannual pizza and pints in the pavilion for our doctoral students. And I love attending Dr. Gibson's Wednesday coffee mornings there. And I'm very happy to sit in and assist and help with room bookings for that and bring some bickies along too. And one of my favorite parts of the year is the commencements. I thoroughly enjoy attending the commencements. We had some commencements last week, our spring commencements, which were wonderful. And it's always lovely to see people coming out the other end as well, because you do get to form relationships with these wonderful individuals, and it's also great to be there to wave them on when they commence. And that's me.
Thank you. You forgot to mention the ethics as well.
Yes, I beg your pardon. I didn't scroll down on my little pad. Yeah, I look after all of the research ethics applications for the School of Education. So if you have any quirks, foibles, questions about that, you can send me an email as well. I don't assess them, but I send them out to the Research Ethics Committee members for them to be assessed. So I deal with the administration on that as well. So any questions, drop me an email.
So there you go. That's Fiona's job, which is quite onerous. But again, a lot of it revolves around looking after the doctoral students there. Right. So yeah, there's the other things that we get up to here. The coffee mornings there. The School of Education seminar series, again, Fiona, I think Fiona also looks after some of those occasionally as well there. We do have a sort of a regular scheduled diary of seminars. And again, they're very open. Students are welcome to them. Members of the general public are welcome to them. And again, they sort of usually reflect what the research groups and the research centres are up to as well there. So again, it's a great opportunity to come along and see what other work people are doing as well there. Always encouraging for people outside of the research groups to come along there and see what's going on there. There's the postgraduate research conference, which happens every year. I think, is this the 14th or 15th year of that, Fiona?
I think it's 16th this year.
Is it? Oh, geez. No, I do feel very old. There. Again, this is an annual event that's well attended and well liked by students as well. That we always encourage people to come along, present their work, or if they don't want to present their work, just to come along and just sort of join in the day. It's a great fun day just to meet up with other students within the school, and now also from outside the school as well. People are starting to come along from other institutions on the island of Ireland as well there. So it's a great opportunity to come together, and it's a very relaxed way, and it's a very good way to sort of, if you're not used to doing presenting and your horrible supervisor wants you to go and start doing presenting, it's a nice venue and a very nice community to demonstrate and talk through your work with as well there. And then the School of Education conferences as well, which we regularly have going on within the school. And again, the website and the social media presence is always good at publicising those. I think, Andrew, you've got one coming up. Do you want to plug yours?
Yeah, the Philosophy and Theory of Higher Education Society. I'll put it in the chat. But just to say that, I mean, there are regularly large-scale international conferences in the School of Education. So various members of staff would be involved with international organizations and scholarly societies. And so there's always an opportunity to go to something here. So it's not just, narrowly focused within whatever someone is doing. Things open up to a much wider audience.
Yeah, and again, the conferences tend to be organised or located within one of the research groups or research centres as well that I hope you'll be part of. So again, there's also an opportunity to become part of the conference as well, and sort of be around and involved in the organisation of it as well, if you so wish. And again, all of these are voluntary here. We don't necessarily expect people to do this as part of their doctoral work. It's completely and utterly voluntary that you come along and participate. We always encourage people to come along and join in as much as possible, or as much as your time allows you to participate in. Yeah. Okay. So, do you want to say something about the coffee mornings? Because these we think are important points, but in the academic year during the month, are they not?
Yeah. So these are something that started, and Fiona's very much involved in these as well. It's a coffee morning. It's a chance for doctoral researchers at different levels. So people from the PhD and the D.ed come along, and we have coffee and bickies, as we call them in Ireland, biscuits and cake and tea and beverages and whatever else you need. And generally we have some kind of topic that we would discuss. So someone from the school would come along, someone from the School of Education. We increasingly get people from outside the School of Education who might be coming along and talking about an aspect of their research. Again, this is in the handbook, the PhD handbook, so you can see the kinds of topics that we've had, the kinds of speakers we have to come along. But this is just another thing that's very important within the School of Education is C-word, that cohort, that community, that camaraderie. That's very important to doing a doctorate in the School of Education. And it does make the School of Education in Trinity, quite distinctive from other schools, even within Trinity, but certainly schools of education elsewhere. So it's just a really nice chance for people who might be in the earlier stage of their journey or their voyage on the doctorate, whatever it may be, to have conversations with and engage with other people. So it's not just you're listening to the Andrews talking about the PhD or the D.ed, you're listening to lots of other people who are further along in the journey, and they're able to tell you whatever it is that we're not kind of sharing in the structure parts. But yeah, it's a really, really nice thing, and it's something that we all really look forward to every month, to have those chances to check in.
And it's on a Wednesday as well.
Also,
In the month. So these are the kind of topics that are covered as well there. So you get a mixture of inputs from people like myself or Andrew. The librarian Geraldine Fitzgerald is a very significant would be and is a significant part of anyone's doctoral work there. One of the great things about Trinity is that we sort of work with one of the largest and best equipped university libraries in Europe there. So it's huge amounts of material, huge amounts of different kinds of materials that you will have access to there. And again, something can be quite overwhelming when you first start there. And Geraldine is very good at supporting students either individually or in groups, irrespective of what stage they're on in their sort of their journey, whether it's towards the middle, the beginning, the end there. Geraldine is very good, and I always sort of send people to Geraldine if I can't answer the question or don't even know how to unravel the question there. So you can see there's various topics that are discussed there, and they change year from year as well, do they not, Andrew, depending on?
yeah, and we do have a variety of different things. And there's some years we've had postdocs who are researching in the area maybe of education itself, who might come along and speak to us. This year we were lucky enough to have my colleague and counterpart in UCD, Dr. Anya Mahan, to come along to talk about something. So it's always something fresh, it's always something nice, and we aim for it to be responsive. So it's always anchored in what your needs and interests are as researchers.
Yeah, the research seminar series, as I said there, we've been running these for about 20 odd years now. And again, a calendar of these is usually produced at the beginning of each academic year, so people do know what's going on. They're usually once a month as well there, and they're very eclectic, and as I said, very open to anyone who wants to come along to them as well. They can be presented by people from within the school, or many occasions we get guest speakers in as well to come along and talk about their work there. So again, everyone's very welcome to them. Yeah, usually first Thursday of every month ish there, but it sort of varies there. And again, if you're interested in those, then you sort of pop along to the School of Education website to see excuse me, to see what's happening in that particular space. The other, again, as I mentioned, the other really big thing that we like and encourage our postgrad students to be involved in is the postgrad research conference. They're now in its 16th year there, and again, as I said, it's a great environment. It's a lovely time for people to come together. We tend to have it in the long room hub as well, which is a really nice space, a really nice building to do it. And again, it's very quirky, very odd there, but it's a chance to, and it's also a chance to get outside the arts building as well. So if you do come and so I noticed that Fiacre and Orna only didn't mention the arts building, which is just as well there. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. It happens once a year, usually in May as well. And Fiona is engaged in supporting the organisation of that. And it's run by the students as well. They decide on the theme of it. They decide on, the structure of it, whereas what kind of workshops they're going to be, what kind of format of presentations and so on and so forth. So it's a small group of students come together and they decide how they want to do it. We don't, as academics, we come along, we support it, but we don't necessarily have an involvement other than that, which is quite nice. But it is very much student led and student supported. Right. Okay. So we're coming to the end of this now. So more formally, and again, you find this on the website there, as well as more information about each of the programs as well there. Andrew looks after the PhD, so again, PhD kind of questions to him. Pardon me. I do the D.ed stuff, so again, get in touch with me, as many people do, and I think a few of you here have already done that. Excuse me. And again, you can get to us either via Fiona, who will direct you on to us, or directly to us there. The other thing is you'll find quite a bit of information on the School of Education websites for both the programs. You might have to navigate your way to them, but I always find that the handbooks are quite good to go and look at. They're getting longer as longer. When I first started this, my handbook was only about 20 pages long, but I now think it's getting up to 100 pages, mainly because Trinity asks us to put more and more institutional policies in there as well. So the first bit of the first 20 odd pages of each of the handbooks are probably useful at this stage, but they do give quite a good flavor, quite a good insight into a bit more detail about the programs as well, which you can read in conjunction with what we've discussed here. So, and yeah, and that's it.